Programming on American Abilities Television Network is sponsored in part by Rochester School for the Deaf. With Regents-level educational programs, outreach services, and cultural support, RSD endeavors to build successful futures for deaf and hard-of-hearing children and their families in Western and Central New York. Rochester School for the Deaf, where families expect more and find it.
Hello and welcome to Talking and Signing. I'm Richard McCollough. This is a program that goes on location to find out more about people, places, and activities in and around the deaf and hard of hearing community. Today, part 2 of our program coverage of Art by Deaf Artists auction held at the Dyer Arts Center on the campus of RIT NTID. We've had a chance to see some beautiful artwork from artists not only from New York but from across the country. And now I continue my interview with Randy Dunham.
Okay, another piece, Rest in Sunset. And it has various bubbles in the piece. It's more of a unified piece. You know, like all day we're very busy and active, and when the sun starts to go down, the environment cools down and things calm down and come together. That's why it's called Rest in Sunset. It's before night falls and becomes very still. And the next day, of course, the activity all starts again. Things bubble up and start moving once again. The 4 other paintings relate to abstract art, but there's some real objects within it. They also relate to transparent and refractions, and also reflection. Those are the 3 themes that I use to make things look as though they're shining, with light's bouncing off of them, and light is playing within the piece. And it explains why. I don't have an explanation for it per se, but I wanted to create an interest and show how the light makes things shine or provides shade, or things are reflected off of objects. So water bubbles, for instance, can have refraction. You can look through them and the light seems smaller or it seems amplified as it goes through the bubble. It's just a simple explanation of that. There's not much to explain about them.
Let me ask you this, Randy. What goes through your mind when you create this artwork? What are you thinking about? Where do you get your inspirations for what we see there? And what do you want us to see?
There are many things that I've attempted to do. For one example, the water drops that you see. You can see them on the ground. They're very small, and I thought I would try to amplify that and make it a gigantic bubble and something that you could see through. And what do you see through that bubble? Like I put a seascape behind one of them. And I thought that bubble with a seascape behind it makes you think of what's outside the bubble. And I thought maybe I would add something that would be opposite. So in the base of that piece, I added something very dry landscape. And I've added various other components from the environment. I get ideas and I try to put them together. And sometimes I try to figure out marble, like a marble effect. I try to figure out something that I'll subtract it to vinyl, add something to a piece. I won't like it, I'll modify that piece to make an effort to make something to look new. I'm always looking for something new in my work, a new image. Reason being, before I did my best for the real artwork, people looked at it and they knew what it was. I mean, you could see it anywhere in real life, or portraits or pictures of houses, for instance. And they would look at it and say, oh, that's nice, and that would be the reaction. And I wanted them to stay in front of that piece and look and think about, why did I use this? Why do I accentuate that? I wanted them to stay there for 10, 15 minutes looking at the picture instead of saying, oh, that's nice, and walking off. So that's the goal of my artwork. I really want to fascinate people and involve people in the work.
Thank you so much for sharing this insight about your artwork, and thank you for joining us on Talking and Signing.
You're very welcome. I appreciated talking with you.
This is Talking and Signing on the American Abilities Television Network. When we come back, we will continue our conversations with deaf artists. We'll be right back. AATV is the only national network that features open captioning all the time. AATV, American Abilities Television Network, programming for the deaf and hard of hearing. Welcome back to Talking and Signing. I'm Richard McCollough. Now we continue our conversation with deaf artists at the art auction held at RIT. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Talking and Signing.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us about your artwork, Grace? What is the name of it, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yes, it's very interesting. I looked at different pictures, really illustrations, I would say, of works done by Lloyd Wright. And from there, I saw there were a lot of stained glass that he had in homes and stuff in Buffalo, Chicago area, and so forth. So when I looked at that work, I really tried to do something with a quilt, because I really like working with fabric, and so I put that all together into a quilting design. And then as I was going through the process, at the time, now you have to understand, it was 2001, and I had just thought about finishing, and then right before I finished, September 11th happened, and the Twin Towers and everything that happened around that, and that got me thinking as also. So I went back and I looked at the piece that I had done, and I thought, oh my God, it looks like a tower. And it was really a reflection to me of that event. So it made that piece very, very special to me for that very reason.
Does art, what is it about art that draws you to it? What inspires you about art?
Well, there are so many different parts of elements of design, like designing with color and designing with line, and also with the feeling of the fabric when I'm doing the work. It's not just that I would be, it's not just a tool, you know, my hands are more than a tool. When you're working with the fabric, you have to decide where exactly to place everything and how colors complement and contrast and so forth, so it's very challenging. It always keeps me going. It always keeps me looking and finding for new ways to do my work in a satisfactory way as I'm doing the sewing and the quilting.
When they see your artwork, what will they see about you?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say that people will see that it's really good to see a person with see through, like for example, seeing through glass, that see through the transparent part of the person, to see them in both ways. For example, when you look at color and you can see through the color and beyond and back again, I think that's the same thing I want them to see when that I'm trying to communicate that with me, that they can see both front and then beyond.
Grace, thank you so much for joining us on Talking and Signing.
Oh, you're so welcome.
For more information, go to our website at www.mirasmedia.net.
I'm Richard McCollough. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Programming on American Abilities Television Network is sponsored in part by Rochester School for the Deaf. With Regents-level educational programs, outreach services, and cultural support, RSD endeavors to build successful futures for deaf and hard-of-hearing children and their families in Western and Central New York. Rochester School for the Deaf, where families expect more and find it.